very much, we are blessed. What a wonderful talk we've had.
讲得特别好。
I mean, I'm overwhelmed by happiness, I guess, because I know how to get it now. So let us give him a hand of applause again, please. It is now time for comments and questions.
Thank you very much, Kampu. Yes, I enjoyed the talk very much. But what is your advice? Because from what you are saying, the major problem is the idea that people get angry, isn't it? And now, how does one overcome anger so that they can have happiness? And in my thinking, this anger comes along with, the mind that, reflects on reality and says, okay, so-and-so is rich and he's telling me to be happy when I'm poor. Why should I be happy when he is rich and happy?
其实，我觉得，因为，对他们愤怒呢，应该没有这么用的。实际上，确实我刚才讲的，我们这个人类的很多可能教育导致，还有我们的各个可能是有些国家的这个政府呢，就是因为腐败的这个问题，还有呢，我们就是受到了一些东西方的不良的这些财务观的这种影响，就是这种这样的话呢，就是现在可能会对这个财富不均衡呢，就有一定的怨气，但是这种怨气呢，任何一种这种负面的愤怒呢，它得到的这个结果呢，就是实际上是不是很理想的，应该通过一种比较理性的这个思维方式来，通过这种途径来解决，可能是最好的。虽然我们现在可能有些人呢，因为穷啊，就是然后自己呢，就是做各方面的事情的话呢，可能空间就很小很小的。有些人呢，他没有能力，没有怎么样，但是呢，他有就是非常多的一些资源。那这个呢，就不仅仅是我们可能一个国家或者是一个地区，现在这个是全球性的问题，而且可能将来就是这种趋势越来越扩大。但这个是我们可能有通过一种理性的智慧是可能第一个方面的。第二个方面的话呢，我们每一个人就是自己也要学一些可能也是一种同情心。比如说我不是特别富裕的人，但是有比我很穷的人看的话呢，也许我可能现在呢也很多行为是非常的这种过分。前段时间我去马拉维，我当时这种汽水就喝完了以后的话呢，里面一点点的水，但是这个呢就是有很多孩子在抢，就是后来有一个身体力气比较大一点的人，他就抢到了下面的半瓶的水，他已经抢到了，但是其他的比较弱小的孩子呢，全部都特别恨他，但是他们呢力气也是不具足的。所以我们在这个社会的任何现象当中的话，也许可能我们先拥有的这些的话呢，也许可能在我们这个国家或者是其他地方的这个身份相比较起来的话呢，就是可能我们也有很多不足的地方，所以我们有时候可能很多方面来进行比较，就是这样的话也许很好。
Well, first of all, anger is not useful. It doesn't do much. And second of all, I think it's that kind of anger arose mostly because of the education system or political corruption that you see in your society and different or wrong value that we receive from the West on the wealth in terms of wealth. So this kind of anger would naturally arise from people because they see all these things happening. But anger itself is a very negative emotion. Therefore, by having such anger, it really doesn't bring to any positive fruitions. So we should have a rather to have wisdom and a rather analytical mind to work with it. To be poor in this world nowadays really have a very small space to progress. And we do see those people who are rich and who have abundant of resources. In fact, they don't have, some of them, they don't have the capacity and capability to do much of a contribution. That's happening globally. And therefore, my advice is, first of all, to have a sense of wisdom and to be strong and have such a kind of wisdom and analytical mind. And the second point is to have a sense of empathy. Yes, we do see people with lots of money who are at wrong, but we should also look at ourselves. Maybe compared to those wealthy people, we're not that rich. We don't abuse our power that much. But compared to those who are poorer than us, then you can think about what you've done, and maybe from their eyes, the way you use your money and your resources are also at wrong. Just like when I was at Malawi, we were at this small village, and I was holding this bottle of water. About less than half is left in my bottle. This group of kids came to me, and they were fighting over that bottle of leftover water. And finally, a bigger kid got that bottle of water, and all the rest of the small children really hated him for that. So we should have this kind of bigger perspective and to look at ourselves and to often contemplate, because sometimes maybe we don't consider ourselves as rich, but to other people's eyes we are.
Thank you very much, Professor. You've talked a lot about contentment, that we should be content and happy. What do you do with the greed that still goes on, the imbalance in our society, in our world, the abuse that continues, the injustice that continues to tear our community apart? Should we continue sleeping on the floor and be content, like you have said, instead of rising to address these issues? Thank you.
问得很好
Great question.
提的问题很好。实际上，可能我刚才讲呢，我去过很多地方，但是每个地方，上至国家层面的，下至一般贫穷层面的话呢，人与人之间就有很多的这种不满的这种情绪。这个是可能，只要人类这个存在的地方的话呢，可能复杂和一些矛盾或者说是不满的情绪呢，一直是存在的。当然有非常严重的这种贪婪，或者说是腐败的话呢，到一定的时候就是可能会溢出来的。就这个是一个自然规律，就不管是在哪个地方，但在那个时候呢，是我们还是乖乖的。就等待呢，还是通过一种方式来争取呢？可能需要智慧。有一种智慧自己呢，就是能过于就是对方的这种就如果你能发现的时候呢，你可以就是对抗或者站起来。但是你不能这个对抗的时候，毕竟是对方的势力非常强大的话呢，你只能这个忍受。我们佛教当中有一句话叫做是什么呢？你在别人这个受下的时候呢，你应该听他的话，就是这是最好的这种出路。就如果你的能力超过对方的话呢，那你可以做各种行为都可以。除此之外呢，我们可能会在社会当中就是看到一些不公平的事情， 但这个是不仅仅是现在，我们人类的历史上都是有很多不公平的这种这个事情，就是一直是发生到今天也是这样的。所以我们可能好像我没有特别满意的跟你，我自己也不太满意回答的，但是呢可能我的想说的呢，就是可能根据自己的能力和智慧来判断。
Well, this is a really good question. I've been to many countries and I've seen their a sense of negative emotion that arises both from a very high governmental management level and from people who are poor and who live in a rather low social status. That kind of negative emotion is kind of permeating around the society. And I think the kind of greed and corruption that you were talking about, it's happening around. And if you notice the natural law of how things work, you notice if you have too much greed and too much corruption, then things are going to overflow, or in other words, it's going to go downhill. So it's very naturally that's going to happen. But whether to lay low and be content with what you have, or to fight over with whatever you don't seem to be content with, is you need to consider your own abilities. So if you can't fight over with the other party, or whatever you don't like to see in your society, if you don't have such ability, then there's no need to crack an egg against of the rock. But if you think you do have such ability to rise above and against of it, then by all means. So it's really depending on the situation and depending on your own ability and wisdom. And you have to use wisdom to investigate whether you are capable of go against of it. We say in Tibetan that once you're under other people's roof, you need to listen to other people's guidance. And if you don't have such ability to be independent, then you just need to endure whatsoever injustice is going on. We see such injustice going around global-wide, and it has happened in our history, and that is inevitable. But my suggestion is, although I'm not quite content with my answer to you, and maybe you're not either, but my suggestion is first investigate your own ability with your wisdom, and know your ability, whether if you're ready to go against of it.
还有，虽然我们在这个天底下很多不能接受的事情，但佛教里面有一种叫做让往他们去对外人，或者让往他们去等人。自由是快乐，他共是痛苦。所以我们现在虽然很多事情呢就是不乐观，但是我在这个世界上是自由，自己有自己的这个语言也好，生活也好，有自己的空间呢，这也是一个非常快乐的事情。
In addition to the answers, I would like to add is that although there are many things that we can't accept under the same sky, that all the injustice that happens under the same sky, but in Tibetan we say that freedom is happiness. To be controlled by others is suffering. So at least we have such freedom to speak of your own language, to do what you like, and to enjoy life as you may. So that's the freedom, and you should be happy about having such freedom.
Good evening. You talked about 3 poisons: the greed, the ignorance, and anger. But I noticed a lot of people were asking about possessions. But where I work with people that want to expose or advocate for gays and lesbians. So what does your religion teach about that? Because a lot of people are ignorant concerning sexual orientation. What are your views?
佛教对同性恋呢也没有否定，也没有肯定，但是它属于一种贪心当中。佛教的经典里面有明显的记着，就是说有些人呢贪着那个他自己同类的这种年轻人，有些人呢也贪着那个比他年龄高的人，有些人就是贪着就是对他年龄小的人，有些是对他同龄，比如说年轻的人。所以这是佛教的一种观点。还有一种佛教的观点里面说，有些人就是他贪着那个同性的，就刚才是异性的，就是有些是贪着同性的，有些是甚至贪着那个动物类的，就是他们对那个动物类有产生贪心啊，就是这些。所以说佛教呢，就是2500年前的时候呢，2560多年前的时候呢，读佛经里面一个很明确的就是这种记载，就是所以说一般就看到这个同性恋呢，就是这几年以来，就是很多国家可能有些是非常排斥，就是甚至反死刑的历史上也有，有些呢就是特别就支持，好像现在呢有26个国家都就变成这个合法吧，就澳大利亚就是以前澳大利亚是非法的，邻居的新西兰呢是合法的，但现在呢就是他们也成了合法的。这样的话，好像有那么多国家呢，就是现在是逐渐这个合法。所以我们的人类当中呢，就是有可能比较各种就比我们平时的传统和想象以外的很多事情发生。所以佛教呢，早已在这个经典里面是有明确的这种说法，所以我刚才讲的不排斥也不赞叹，就是跟其他的这个贪欲呢，是应该是相等的。
Well, in Buddhism, we talk about the Buddhism attitude or perspective on homosexuality is neither to reject it nor to agree with it. And so it's not against of nor agreeing with it. But Buddhism has this view on greed or desire. People may have desire towards the younger one who are younger than them, and there are people who desire for the older ones, and there are people who desire for their peers, and there are people who desire for people of the same gender and the people of the different gender, and there are people who desire for animals. So there are many different types of desire, and in terms of that, it is stated in the sutra that's over 2,560 years ago, and it was stated very clearly in sutras, that is Buddhist texts. Many countries around the world nowadays are turning into the kind of countries that makes same-gender marriage lawful, and there are still lots of countries are against of it. Just as Australia, it used to be the country that was against of homosexual marriage, but last year it turned into they've actually changed their law and made the same gender marriage to be lawful, just as their neighbor New Zealand. So they're right now both of the countries that make this lawful, and now there are 26 countries around the world that has the lawful same gender marriage. People from different traditions and people. In fact, there are many people in this world that have very different traditions and have very different tendencies that we can never really imagine of. But those kind of tendencies were all written and described in Buddhist texts that's written over 2,600 years ago, 2,500 years ago. But in general, this kind of tendency is based on greed or desire, and that is the root of such. That is not to be promoted.
我再补充一下。
To add, to give you addition to the answers.
佛经里面就像有些人喜欢年轻人，有些人喜欢这个老年人的话呢，我就经常想起了中国前几年呢有一个杨振宁科学家，他当时82岁的时候娶了一个28岁的这种姑娘，就是现在好像他都已经90多岁了，不是90，对。28岁、82岁，他现在就是好像90多岁，有没有？就已经差不多了。这是一个，我就经常想，就是这个，因为有些人是比自己年轻，喜欢年轻的；有些人喜欢年老的人，包括那个美国这个川普总统的家庭和法国这个马克龙是吧？就是他的这个家庭的家人的这种年龄关系的话呢。就是有这个不同的差别。我个人而言，我93年去美国的时候呢，有一个男士，这个他说这是我的男朋友，就是带着一个他的男朋友来。当时我刚开始去西方，特别不接触，我就觉得太惊讶了。但是后来呢，因为接触的就比较多了，就是所以现在呢，就是他们不仅仅是所谓的男朋友，他的。这种同性的家人带来的话呢，就是我们都非常就能接受，就是这个可能是一个观念的问题。
Well, in terms of the different tendencies of attraction that was described in Buddhist text, as I said earlier, some liked people who are younger than them and who are older than them. To give you an example, a Nobel laureate nominee from China, or he was his name is Yang Zhenying, and he at the age of 82 he married to a young girl who was only 28 years old, and now he's over 90. And they've lived together after marriage. So that was that has been a hotline on the newspaper. And not even to mention about such big age gaps. Just look at the U.S. President Donald Trump and his family members, as well as French President Macron and his wife has a rather big age difference with him. So there are people who are attracted to people who have a rather big age difference. And in terms of gender, I myself, back in 1993, when I visited United States, I met this young man who came with another young man to see me, and when he introduced the other young man, he said, "This is my boyfriend." And at that time, I really couldn't accept such kind of relations, and I was really surprised. But now, maybe because I've met so many people, and I really no longer mind about their introductions to their family members, let it be men or women. I have a rather more inclusiveness and acceptance in my mind. So therefore, I think it's really just a concept.
I believe our time is up. We're already 10 minutes over. And can we give a round of applause to the Rinpoche one last time? Thank you very much, sir. We've really learnt a lot today, but at the end of it all, I think what I've understood myself is that contentment is important. We have all these issues. For instance, Botswana is known internationally to be a very peaceful country. It's also known to be, or said to be, one of the best in Africa. And yet, another study done internationally says that Botswana are the most depressed. It's surprising. It's all because even though we have all these riches, like the Rinpoche has said, there's so much inequality in the sharing of these diamonds, so to speak. So, but at the end of the day, I believe that Botswana, because I don't know what kind of people we are, but we don't seem to have the tools. We don't seem to have the energy to fight, the energy to do anything. And the Rinpoche's advice, as I've understood it myself, is that we should just be content because we can't do anything. But if we can, by all means, let's do something to change the status quo. Because when I went to Malawi, and he mentioned Malawi, I realized that poverty, you can see, you can smell it. It's all over. But the people, you know, I was amazed at how people are so peaceful. They are not dodgy people. They don't want, you know, they are not interested in your cell phone. They are not interested in anything to steal from you. You know, they would rather ask. But here where we have diamonds and are rich and, you know, and are, you know, known by the world to be doing very well, you step out of, even in your house, you don't feel safe. Because people are greedy, people just want to grab whatever is there, because there's a lot of materialism and competition that comes with it, and there's so much trouble. So I believe in the absence of any quick fix to the problem of inequality, it is upon us as individuals to take it to heart, you know, to be content and to be happy with the little that we have. Thank you very much.